Chair LaFaro is absent. Vice Chair Finnerty.
Present.
The Secretary is here. Board Member Catalinato.
Present.
Board Member Mutu.
Here.
Board Member Neely.
Present.
Board Member Fulham.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Brief review of safety procedures. In the event of an emergency, exit this room utilizing either of the two rear doors, proceed to the main floor using either staircase, and exit the building utilizing the front or the rear side door. And I think we're going to go in order. And we'll start with Old Stables at Spionk. Do we have notice, council?
We do.
Very good. George, you're going to start us off with the reading.
Please take notice that in accordance with local law number 417 of 2022, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on May 11, 2023 at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing to consider the final application entitled Old Stables at Spionk. The application proposes a 7-lot density incentive Long Island Workforce Housing Planned Residential Development subdivision with 1.75 acres of open space representing 25% of the area to lot of a 7-acre parcel currently improved with a single-family residence and accessory structures situated within the CR40 zoning district and the New York State Archaeological Sensitive Area, located at 85 North Phillips Road, Spionk, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-350-3-88.
Very good. Do we have representative of Old Stables?
Gary will go to the podium.
Great. Just please use the podium.
Hello, I'm Gary Witham. I'm the principal of Old Stables at Spionk. And we're proposing a 7-lot subdivision with one density incentive lot for affordable housing, which is lot number 1. Lots are approximately a half acre each. There are 7 lots in total, with a dedication to the town for open space.
Okay.
The affordable lot is lot 1 on the left when you drive in on the road, the proposed road. That's about it. Do you have any questions?
So now we saw this in the preliminary. Any questions for board members?
What's the size of the overall parcel?
7 acres.
Thank you.
7 acres. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to be heard on the map of Old Stables at Spionk? Charles, is there anyone in the Zoom room?
No, sir.
Very good. I'll entertain the motion to close this 10-day written comment period. Motion. Motion by Craig.
Second.
Second by Gloria, and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? We have 6 yes. Gloria, did you want to read the second one?
Sure.
Okay.
You're all set.
The
Thank
second
you.
one, item 2 on the agenda is 325 Rose Hill Road. Do we have notice, council?
We do.
Very good. Is there some, Gloria, you can go ahead and read.
Please take notice that in accordance with local law number 417 of 2022, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on May 11th, 2023, at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via teleconferencing, to consider the final application entitled 325 Rose Hill Road. The application proposes a 2-lot subdivision of a 4.2636 parcel, which is currently improved with a retreat house and accessory structures located within the R60 zoning district, the water quality high priority area, a New York State archaeological sensitive area, and within close proximity of town regulated wetlands, as situated at 325 Rose Hill Road, Hamlet of Watermill, Southampton tax map number, Suffolk County tax map number 900-115-3-14.2.
Okay, very good. Is there an applicant's representative for 325 Rose Hill?
Thank you.
Hello.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm Brian LaCasio with the Adam Miller Group. I'm Bridgehampton, New York, attorney for the applicant. As stated, we're here for a proposed two-lot subdivision of the property at 325 Rose Hill Road. The property is approximately 4 1/4 acres. It's currently improved with an approximately 40-bedroom retreat house, swimming pool, and deck. This application was before you for a pre-app back in August of 2021. We received some opposition due to a notice, a note in the declaration of the prior subdivision when this lot was approved, which prohibited further subdivision of this lot. We came before you, had an approval, and recorded the amended declaration under the condition that in exchange for approving the subdivision, we would remove this 40-bedroom structure with a 40-bedroom conventional septic system. As I stated when I was before you for the pre-app, I think this would be a benefit to the neighborhood. We're creating 2 conforming lots. We're going to have 2 single-family dwellings with modern IA septic systems to improve reduce the nitrogen leaking into Hayground Cove. I'm happy to answer any questions you have on the subdivision.
The structure is still standing, right? You
The structure is still standing, correct.
Okay. But it's vacant?
It is currently vacant,
Okay.
but the structure is still there, and there's no intention to demolish it until the subdivision will be approved.
Understood. Further questions from the board?
No.
Is there anyone from the public who wishes to be heard on 325 Rose Hill Road? Please use the podium. And state your name and affiliation when you do.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Nika Strunk, Nika B. Strunk PLLC, for Larry and Lori Schloss, who are owners of adjacent property at 383 Rose Hill Road. I brought some materials with me this evening, and I'm going to just copies 1 second.
Thank you very much.
Board. I think there's 10 sets here. Thank you.
You can just make sure you direct me what photos you want up.
Yes, and Anthony has kindly agreed to show some images that we sent him earlier today. What I'd like to bring the board's attention to is the issue of the project's compliance with the conservation easement that was granted by the then owner of the property, the Covenant of the Sisters of Mercy in Brooklyn, to the town of Southampton in 1997. And in this packet, we put a copy of that covenant as the top document. It just for sake of convenience, I'm sure it's probably part of your file on this. So this conservation easement was a condition of this board's prior subdivision approval for this property, and it's very clear that there is to be absolutely no disturbance of the conservation easement area, which is a strip of land approximately 75 feet wide on the eastern side of the property. You can see it here. It's shaded there. And what the conservation easement states is, in paragraph 1, it says, "No regrading or dredging shall be conducted on the said premises, and no fill or spoil shall be placed thereon." In paragraph 2, it says, "No topsoil, loam, sand, stone, gravel, rock, or mineral shall be excavated or removed therefrom or placed thereon." Jumping down to paragraph 5, it states, "No trees, plants, or other vegetation located thereon shall be killed, destroyed, or removed therefrom." And the last paragraph I'd like to point out is paragraph 10, which says the said premises will forever be kept open and free of all buildings, other structures, including but not limited to walls, fences, and berms. So the meaning of this language is clear. There shall be no disturbance whatsoever of the conservation easement area. And what concerns us is that on prior plans, I don't see it on this one, but I'd like to go through the plans that we've seen, because Anthony, if you could display the first one, which I think was this, and not the aerial photos, but the first survey. or the-
Subdivision map dated 4/15/21.
Yes, please, thank you very much. This was the one that we first saw, and it doesn't have anything proposed in the conservation easement area. But the second one, which is the next one dated August 8th, 2022, it had a proposed two proposed docks. Actually, maybe you could just show the
Zoom out a
one on the, yeah. And two walkways leading to these docks. Also showed the footprint of potential houses to be built on these lots. And then finally, the one that we last received, which was dated February 15th, 2023, which we got, I believe, from a FOIL request, shows one dock. And this is what was approved by the health department, I believe. So one dock and one walkway. It also shows a change to the configuration of the lots in that there's a flagpole that connects lot 1 to the water, and that flagpole has been expanded to a width of 30 feet within the conservation easement area, and it's now labeled as 30-foot legal access strip to Hayground Cove. So our concern is that the proposed walkways leading to proposed docks within the conservation easement area are a clear violation of the conservation easement provisions. And also, there is a question as to what this 30-foot legal access strip, as it's labeled, means. I don't understand, for whom does it mean legal access? Obviously, the owner of Lot 1 does not need legal access over its own property, and it's not clear if it's purporting to give Lot 2 access over that strip. I think the developer needs to clarify that so that the board can consider this. And obviously, while a property owner is always free to cross their own land, the conservation easement does prohibit the clearing of vegetation and the establishment of structures. And that was in place when the developer purchased this land. It's been in place since 1997. We're concerned that the term legal access strip could be misconstrued to indicate that the clearing of vegetation or a walkway structure was approved by this board in that location. And in that regard, it seems that the Conservation Board may have misinterpreted it in that manner. There is a memo from the Conservation Board, which I presume is in your file as well. And in item 6, it states that it recommends one common walkway and dock, quote, located within the bounds of the existing 30-foot legal access strip to Hayground Cove. But again, what does that mean? There is no existing legal access strip. That is something that's been labeled on the most current map and proposed to this board. It seems that the Conservation Board may not have reviewed the specific provisions of the conservation easement, because if it had, it should have seen the absolute prohibition on clearing and structures within the conservation easement area. And it also seems clear that this is designed to provide for a potential second walkway and dock in the future. And I think that should be clarified as well. So, because anywhere within the conservation easement area, a walkway to a dock would be a violation of that easement. This is a property right of the town of Southampton. It's held for the benefit of all the residents of the town of Southampton under the powers granted to it by Section 247 of the General Municipal Law. And respectfully, this board does not have the power to modify this conservation easement or to prohibit or to permit a violation of it. I'd also like to point out that violations of the conservation easement are not theoretical. There have already been very significant violations of the conservation easement. And Anthony, if you could display the photos, aerials these are from GIS from 2021 and 2020.
First 325 Rose Hill? Tell you what.
Yes, yeah, no, I'm sorry. Is it in that email, Danielle? It should be an aerial.
2021, 2022?
Yes, please, thank you. It's also part of, you could get it from GIS, but this is what thank you. This is what the property, including the conservation easement area, looked like in 2021. And then you can compare it to 2022, which is really, just massively denuded. Tremendous clearing took place that was completely in violation. Oh, I should point out, you have all of these materials in your packets. So this was a massive violation of the conservation easement. It indicates a disregard for that, for those restrictions. And on that note also, the Conservation Board has recommended that the conservation easement area be expanded to cover 100 feet from the shores of Hayground Bay. It's also recommended that the illegally cleared areas be restored and revegetated. And obviously, my clients support that and think it's extremely important. However, their final recommendation about one walkway to one dock we submit is not consistent with the restrictions of the conservation easement. And so those are our points, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have. Mr. Schloss is going to speak about the other photos that are in your packets.
Thank you, Ms. Ruck.
Okay.
You have another speaker coming?
Yes, my client, Larry
Larry.
Schloss. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice. She's shorter than me.
You want me to put up the first one for you?
Not quite yet.
Okay.
So my name is Larry Schloss, and with my wife for 44 years, we live next door. We're at 383 Rose Hill Road, which is over here. And our property runs from Rose Hill Road to Hayground Cove, just like this property. Okay? And I want to talk to you about two things tonight. One is docks, which Nika spoke about, and one is trees, which I'll speak about. We were here in August at the pre-petition or the pre-meeting that was referred to before. And when we first heard the plan, there was no discussion of docks at all. And I pointed that out. I said, this house is on the water, but there's no provision for a dock. So my guess is at some point they're going to come back to this body and talk about docks, which is clearly what they've done now. Now I'd like that first picture.
Okay. Got it?
Yeah, if you could make it bigger. Perfect. So last weekend I went out in my kayak, and that's what the convent looks like. My house is on the left. The so-called 30-foot access is that little beachy thing on the far left. Right there, exactly. And there's supposed to be, well, that's how it looks today. And as Nika mentioned, somewhere between the original plan and today, the developer said he'd like to have two docks, one in the middle and one on that side that abuts our property. And then his most recent drawings, the one that was approved by the health department, the one dock went away, the one that adjoined my property, but now is this thing called legal 30-foot access that, I don't know who made it legal, but it's now all of a sudden on the survey, and there's one dock. So we were a little surprised with the changes that happened, particularly, again, somewhere along the way we had said two docks doesn't make any sense. And one dock went away, but this access path or access legal 30-foot thing showed up, and again, it's right next to our property. It's if you look on the left, far left, that's my house, that's my dock on the left, right there, and the beach is the 30-foot access, exactly. And right next to that is a big row of trees that's on their property that I'm going to get to in a moment. But you can see that that 30-foot access is right on my property line, and is in the conservation easement and in the wetlands. So we don't quite understand where it came from. Nika says it's not quite legal, because it sits in the easement. So I guess we just don't understand it, to be perfectly blunt. So then we got the report from the Conservation Board and their recommendations. This came out about 2 weeks ago. And we worked with Marty Shea when we built our house, because we have wetlands as well. So we know Marty very, very well. We think he's great. We think no one understands the wetland situation in the town of Southampton, and particularly Mecox Bay, better than he does. And he cites in this report that the New York State DEC says that Mecox Bay is a pathogen-impacted waterway. And we know that for a fact, because we talk to the baymen every now and then, and they're very concerned about the whole salinity in Mecox Bay. And we can tell in the brackish water that the name of the game is try to preserve Mecox Bay. We don't have any motorboats in our dock. We're kayak people, so we don't make the pollution. So we thought that the best way to protect Mecox Bay, as well as live up to the cove, the conservation easement, is no docks. So forget about this 30-foot pathway. Again, the pathway just sits, I'm sorry, it's not a pathway. It's let me get the term correct. It's an access strip. It's called a legal 30-foot access strip down our property line, which sort of begs the question of course you're going to put a dock there later. You might not be talking to this group, but somewhere along the way, whoever owns the house on the street over here is going to walk down this flag lot to this legal access and want to come to somebody and say, I'd like a dock. The question is, why does this even exist if all of this is a conservation easement? So that's number one. So we just think there shouldn't be any docks, there's a conservation easement, and period. We also think that since it was on a survey from Brailovsky, if it said 30-foot access lot, if the Conservation Board saw that, they would think, as they did, they recommended that there be one dock for both houses on this 30-foot access strip. Question is, where'd the access strip come from? I have a feeling if they knew there was no access strip, they would have just said no docks. Of course, I didn't ask them, so I can't tell you for a fact, but it sort of smacks of, if you give someone a piece of paper and say, here, where would you put the dock? They'd say, well, it should go there because it shouldn't go anywhere else in the easement. It looks like someone else has already granted that 30-foot strip. My guess, I don't know where it came from. I'm sure that you didn't do it quite yet because I don't think you've made any decisions yet. So, again, our recommendation is live by the conservation easement, no docks at all. The second issue are trees. Trees, as you know, are very, very important. This survey points out that there's hedges here and a 5-foot stockade fence here. So that's sort of on our side. It doesn't say anything about what's on the other side. The other side, if you could show us that.
This one?
Yeah, that one. The other side has these spectacular trees. And this is my driveway apron looking at 325. Can I see the next one too, please? This one, this next picture is just down from that. It's the rest of my driveway apron. All the large trees are on 325. The low hedges are on my property. Can you show me one more slide, please? This is looking down my backyard. There's one little house there, a garage. There's a huge tree behind it, and then there's 2 more trees. Again, this is all looking down toward Mecox Bay. That's all on his property. And again, he decimated the wetlands. So we think he shouldn't come and decimate this. So I think I need one more slide, please. So this is the view looking from his property. I didn't go in the property, this is from the street. You see that it's very, very close to my property. In fact, one more slide, please. All those trees are within 10 feet of the border. So what we'd like is a covenant that says you won't take those trees away. And I think it's good for us as neighbors to protect our privacy, and the new owners of the two lots are gonna think it's great because they don't wanna look at our house, just like I don't wanna look at their house. So, but we're not quite sure, because again, the current developer decimated the wetlands. We'd like him to covenant that he's not gonna ruin those trees. Again, that protects our privacy, it protects the privacy of both of these lots. Can you go back 3 pictures, please?
Not that one?
No, one more. No, I'm sorry, you had it right before.
That one?
Yeah, put that back up. You can barely see it, but see that house? That's the convent? That's exactly where the front house, the houses on Rose Hill, is drawn to be. If you take those trees away, he's gonna stare at me, I'm gonna stare at him. I took this picture from the ground. If I go up to my first floor balcony, I'll look into his property. I don't wanna look into his property, and he'll have a house looking into my property. Again, those are 50-foot trees, and they all live within the first 10 feet of his property. So all I would like is a covenant that says, and it can go with, the covenant should go with the land and all that. But I just think that they should covenant to keep those beautiful trees in place. And they run from Rose Hill all the way down to Hayground Cove. So, in summary, those are just 2 things that we care most about. One is Hayground Cove, Mecox Bay, the water, preserving the conservation easement, and 2, preserving our privacy and the privacy of the people that ultimately buy these properties, because again, they're gonna wanna live peacefully and privately ever thereafter, as are we. So, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to talk to you about either of those issues.
The 30-foot access strip, was there, since you purchased your house?
Was there an access strip?
Yeah, the access strip?
There isn't. There isn't an access strip. This whole thing is one property now that they want to divide, so this is their plan.
Well, this clearing that I'm looking on your property line, was that done recently, or has that always been there?
What you describe as a little beach.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just been there. The little beach has always been there.
Okay.
It's inside the nun's property. They had a little bench, that sat there, and they'd come and sit on their little beach and
So they
look
just
out.
use that as a little pathway to the water?
Yeah. Actually, there wasn't a path, the only path there isn't a path there. They would literally come through the bushes and sit there.
So, question for Nika maybe, or me. I haven't read the full covenant, the whole easement, but I assume that you're allowed to traverse on foot the conservation easement to get to the bay?
Absolutely.
Okay. So if, like, the reason I asked that, so if they did have the 2-lot subdivision, in the absence of some sort of access to Mecox Bay, and notwithstanding no docks, but the very fact that the front lot, if they needed to get access to the bay, they can walk across the easement to get to the bay.
Yeah, I mean, just briefly explain. I mean, my view is that a property owner always has the right to cross their own property. The conservation easement just speaks to what you can and can't do. You can't clear trees, you can't clear a 4-foot, area for a wooden walkway, or that's prohibited. But obviously,
I understand. But I'm looking at the way the lot line is drawn, that if it divides the conservation easement between one and strictly and entirely on lot 2, which is a waterfront property, then the lot 1, the street property, really can't get access to the bay.
right.
They'll be crossing somebody else's property.
If that's how it was
Yes.
If that's how it was configured, although right now it's not configured that way, it's configured with a flagpole.
Right.
But yes, I would agree with you, yes.
Yeah, what I'm struggling with is the easement, I think, says you can't take a tree or a bush down, but the applicant is saying that you have to walk through brambles to get to the water. So it's, what I'm implying is that you can't get to the water because you have to stomp on the trees.
Well,
I mean,
I mean, the aerial photo seems that there's been an informal trail kind of going towards that beach, you know?
I'm
Formed
not
formed
familiar.
over
but-
time, maybe? I mean, from the aerial, it looks like that, yeah.
I mean, Larry,
I don't know.
Um,
There's never been, it looks like a beach, but every now and then the nuns would sit there, but that was it. It wasn't a well-trodden path. It's not a path.
Anthony, any chance you could pull up an aerial from 15 years ago or something?
It was hard to get, it's hard to get there because all the bushes were there.
Yeah.
Well, that's
That's
why
it.
I'm questioning if, how can you have a dock and use the water?
They
if
didn't
you-
have a dock.
Okay,
No,
or,
there's never been a dock, it looks like,
So this is 2001 aerial.
Clear path.
right, right.
I'll check. Let's see if I can even do it. Oh, that wasn't built at that time. That's 2008.
It's like two. Yeah, let's say one right in the middle of the property.
yeah,
2013.
mhm.
That's from-
2018.
And on this side as well.
Seems like something like that. 2022.
Now, full disclosure, since we've been there the last 5, 7 years, there were only 3 nuns that lived in the convent, so it's not like there was a lot of people there, despite the size of it.
Could you zoom out on the aerial a little bit?
Sure.
I mean, my view is that, of course, property owner has the right to walk across its property, but if you purchase a property that has a extremely strict conservation easement, the way this one has, then you shouldn't assume that you can clear 4 feet and put a wooden walkway on it to a dock.
Have you witnessed clearing?
Oh, yeah.
There has been clearing, yes, Larry
They
witnessed
cleared
it.
You could see
in
it.
August of 2021, that's what the
If you go to 21.
No, I mean, but
Can
have
I
you,
just suggest that there's no proposed dock or pathway on this plan, so I think we're going.
Well,
with
we're gonna,
management.
Mr. Costa,
Yep.
we're gonna get you back up to
Okay.
address some of these issues.
I mean, have you seen people back there cutting down trees and
I had a
removing?
wood chipper, they just decimated the place, August 2021. Thanksgiving. We can, we have pictures of that, we took it from our terrace, it was just ridiculous.
Yeah, and again, my question wasn't that they would construct a walkway or anything, I'm just saying that, you know, they, you know, obviously waterfront access in a location is, would be fine, to at least be able to get to the waterfront.
To just
Whether it's an
walk.
informal walkway,
Yeah.
like we have, I'm certainly not suggesting you build a wooden structure. So I can see probably the need for some sort of a easement or reconfiguration of lot maybe, so that there is a strip like you see in many other waterfront properties.
Yeah.
There's a access, whether it's 4 feet wide, 6 feet wide, where somebody might be able to walk down to the waterfront where the beach area is, or you just to the waterfront. 30 feet, and I'm not implying that they should even build a dock, because obviously you're violating what the covenant said, but you know, it's, you know, it's just a question about being able to traverse the conservation areas. There didn't seem to be any restrictions on walking through it.
Absolutely,
But
I
you
agree with
can't
you on
cut
that.
down a tree or a bush.
But you know, you can walk
You
your
can
way
walk
through bushes,
between the
right? And you can
trees.
see, obviously,
Bushes.
people have walked from the pool, there seems to be an informal walkway along the property edge, there seems to be an informal walkway to the beach,
It's been
in between
found,
the bushes over time, you know.
it's been found the installation of sometimes these elevated docks, they have perforated openings, which allow sunlight and rainfall. It's been found that those are more consistent with the intent of the easement because they preclude trampling down the vegetation. They sort of, the posts go in very carefully and then the dock is laid out and the vegetation underneath
Survive.
is maintained.
I mean, that'd be, for us, really, we're considering a subdivision, whether that's allowed
Yeah, that's-
within
That's
this
what-
covenant.
That's
And
a
then, and
conversation.
then also, we're just here to hear.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
I just want
It's a
to.
decision being made.
That's fine. I just want to confirm with Christine that, you know, as it pertains to the subdivision, the planning board doesn't approve docks on subdivisions, okay? That goes to the trustees, right? I just want to make sure that, that we would
In
never
fact, the
put.
final map would
Correct.
have to have that dock removed.
Yeah,
before it's even
absolutely,
signed.
absolutely.
So does that mean you would be approving the 30-foot legal access?
Well, we're going to have the applicant explain.
No, no, I'm just, it's part of.
That would be part of our
No,
approval.
That's
that,
what I
that
mean.
could be part of the.
No.
My guess is that the way it was done that way specifically, you can correct me if I'm wrong, to give that front lot, the access to the water, as opposed to an easement over the back lot. That's my guess,
But
but,
bear in mind that the map can leave this office, this board, and then the easements can be placed through a private party transaction, which would have no oversight by this board. The waterfront lot could grant an easement to the roadfront lot, and I suspect that's what would probably transpire. The vegetation we can address, and those are important issues you raised, and your photographs are very helpful.
Okay, thank you.
As I stated, we are not proposing any docks. On common data conservation, when they propose these easements, under modern easements, they actually prefer that we establish a 4-foot wide path. I know that wasn't established here, but that's nothing before you. We're here for a simple 2-lot subdivision. The creation of this reverse flag was that so we don't have some neighborly dispute in the future. This person would have a fee access to the water, so if they want to go down and use a kayak or whatever that future water use is, they'll have their own prescribed fee touching the water that they can get to. Any revegetation, that would be a condition to reestablish the conservation easement under any building permit, so we acknowledge that's something that have to be done. There aren't any issues with that. I don't think the dock is, we're not proposing any docks here, so I don't know that I need to go much further into that. But we did want to establish lot 1 having its own fee access to the water, rather than an easement that it may have to defend in the future, similar to when a subdivision is created with flag lots. Even though there may be a common driveway, there still is, each property owner is going to have their own fee access, so they have their own access to the water that no one can ever take from them. And it just seemed like better planning from to avoid a future dispute, let them have their path to the water. We understand the conservation easement, what it is, what it allows us and doesn't allow us to do. We're not questioning that.
Can you address the alleged clearing violations that were presented?
I have no knowledge of when those were or not cleared. It appears some vegetation may have been taken down, but again, we understand that this conservation easement would have to be restored and honored for any future development of this lot. And we're not looking to diminish the value of that easement.
I think for the benefit of the neighbors, it could be helpful to explain what this board governs, and then that we make referrals, and there's also other departments that
Right.
could be addressed, like through the trustees, and how the docking process works, just so that it's clear.
Yeah.
We're in charge of one section of this, and then there's other sections that others.
That's a good suggestion.
Yeah.
We're just
Could you do
reading
that
off
as
the-
the-
If you need, maybe you just want to summarize our role in creation of these lots.
I don't know if I'm really ready to give a primer on that, but basically, we're looking at the subdivision of land and proper access to and from, and making sure that it is referred to the appropriate agencies in terms of engineering to make sure that it's compliant with state requirements, speedies permits, stormwater runoff. We send them to, where else do we send them?
fire marshal,
Fire
conservation
marshals.
board.
Right, and
This-
they get all those permits, and we kind of quarterback it, basically, and bring them all together, put those into a report, and then ultimately work our way through a process, through a give and take, usually through public hearings, of what the ultimate subdivision will look like. But that notwithstanding, they would still have to go to separate agencies, health department, trustees for docs, like that. That's not something that we would do.
But the planning board will be, in this case, the wetlands board, in this particular case, because the board's acting on a subdivision. So this board then will also set the parameters for, the conservation board, for example, recommended expanding the buffer. We'll have that discussion. If there's got to be some reclamation of the area that's been disturbed, this board will make that a requirement. So this board will handle that. That's
And review the revegetation, right?
revegetation, yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
meant, I'm sorry. I used a different word.
Because they were using reclamation today.
I know, that's what it was.
Yeah. This is
That's the bit.
Walker.
So, it's important that all of this gets emailed to Anthony
Thank
and
you.
provided to us as part of the record, right?
Yes, I think it was.
That's what they got away.
So it will all be incorporated. I think that's, it was
Shippers.
Anthony's.
I think
Is
this
that
is a new
different from what he
picture.
emailed?
Yeah. If
Mr.
there's-
Schloss, did you already email those pictures?
Yeah.
What you're looking on your phone right now?
This is the wetland? This is the
I know,
photograph?
no, what I'm trying to figure out is, because
This is
everything
new.
that you
I
should.
didn't-
I have
So
everything.
then, if you could send that to Anthony, whatever
Yeah.
additionally you
Right.
showed the board members, because it has to be a part of the record.
And I do have their other email.
I think what Larry was showing was the pictures that he took in
Yeah,
Thanksgiving
we're
2021.
going to keep the written record open to allow you.
I'm sorry, 2020.
Time to get those submittals in.
Okay, thank you. And just a couple of little things. I think this notion of fee access is confusing because what is proposed here is actually fee. So fee ownership of this strip as part of Lot 1. So the owner of Lot 1 doesn't need any fee access, it has the fee. It doesn't need an easement. So I think that's confusing, and that 30-foot wide legal access strip should be changed, the nomenclature of
We
that.
can remove the notation. I mean, it's just a notation put on by the surveyor. It's
Okay.
just.
That's really the lot configuration is gonna,
That is the water access for that lot. Was John Brylski's terminology he used.
And the other thing, which goes to Anthony's point about this board having wetlands approval, we were just concerned that because certain iterations of this plan have shown walkways through the conservation easement area and through the wetlands area, that was this board going to approve that as part of this, subdivision process? So, I mean, if that's not happening, then very good.
Yes.
But it certainly has been in prior submissions, they've been
Nika,
shown.
even though they make that determination, they do take the Conservation Board's recommendations as part of this process.
I understand,
So,
I know, but the question is a walkway or two walkways being approved by this board as part of this subdivision? And I think I'm hearing you say that the answer is no.
Not
Okay,
the lot configuration.
only the lot configuration.
But if there is an issue with overclearing, then that should be reported to code enforcement, right? And then they would the applicant would come before this board with a revegetation plan that would be reviewed by Anthony or other staff, that we would have to make sure that all the correct plantings were going back into place.
Well,
So that's, again, like a separate, and I don't know if that's
We're
something
gonna
that we
do that, I
prefer.
mean,
We'll
you
do
can
it
do that, but
anyway,
we're gonna
right?
do it anyway, as part of this
Yeah.
process, they're gonna have to do that anyway, so, I mean, that's entirely up to you, but.
well, it seems that it would be good if it could be incorporated into any conditional approval that would be done by this board. I see Anthony.
It would be.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Ms. Sutton.
thank you.
Any other speakers on 325? I forgot to ask, Charles, is there anyone on Zoom?
No, sir.
No, and no one from the public wishes to be heard? I'm going to recommend to my colleagues that we keep this extended written record. There appears to be additional submissions. Normally, we close with a 10-day window, but perhaps a 30-day window would be more appropriate. You could print, submit, and the staff will circulate all the photos and submissions to the individual members. Okay, so with that, could I entertain a motion to close with a 30-day written comment? Motion by Kate, and we have a second by Craig. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? We have 6 yes. Thank you very much for. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who's the next reader? I'm feeling. Tom, you up for reading?
Oh, you reading?
I shall.
You want to do reading? Let's
Sure.
get the next application called, which is 656, 664. Do we have notice, council?
We do.
Very good. Tom, you are free to read.
Okay. Please take notice that in accordance with local law number 417 of 2022, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on May 11th, 2023, at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing to consider the pre-submission conference application entitled 656 and 664 Montauk Highway. The proposed site plan is for the merger of two adjoining parcels, construction of a 3,000 square foot, two-story mixed-use building with the first floor, 1,706.21 square feet of mini market, 361.92 square foot ice cream shop with 16 outdoor seats. Second floor consists of two 600 square feet apartments, a 508 square foot office, two 450 square feet moderate income apartments, 82 parking spaces, 5 handicap spaces, and a truck loading space located at the rear of the proposed structure. A 50-foot vegetated transitional yard is proposed in the rear of both properties with the existing 4,746 square foot auto repair garage to remain, situated on a 1.72 acre parcel located in the HC zoning district and situated within the Aquifer Protection Overlay District and the Central Pine Barrens Compatible Growth Area in the hamlet of Hampton Bays, located north of Montauk Highway at 656 and 664 Montauk Highway, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-340-3-19 and 20.
I just want to make a correction for the record that this is East Quogue Hamlet, not Hampton Bays, right?
Well, that's what's on the agenda, but what was noticed was Hampton Bays.
This is in East Quogue. Is there an issue there, council?
Which thing?
I did say Hamlet of Hampton Bays. Where you
I think
draw.
that this was,
Instead
cor-
of East Quogue.
It was
I thought
noticed,
that they had corrected this a while ago, didn't
They
they?
might have, I don't know, we'd have to talk to Carrie, to be quite honest.
Okay.
My understanding is that it was corrected
Quogue.
previously, but I would go ahead with the hearing, and if we find that there is a discrepancy, then we'll have to remedy it. Okay.
Okay. Very good, you have the floor.
Thank you. Michael Shiano from InterScience Research Associates on behalf of the applicant. The applicants, Hope Landing LLC and Serenity Fields LLC, seek approval to construct a two-story mixed-use building with a 3,000 square foot footprint. Currently, this lot, the northern lot, which is lot 19, I believe this is 664, is vacant. Though, as you can see on the aerial photograph, it is currently being used as car storage for the existing mechanic garage. But we're proposing to construct this mixed-use building as Mr. Neely described. The first floor would be used as a market retail use with an accessory ice cream shop and 16 outdoor seats. The second floor would consist of two offices totaling 508 square feet together, two 450 square foot each moderate income apartments, and two 600 square foot each apartments, so 4 apartments altogether. From a zoning standpoint, we do have sufficient space to build this just on the eastern lot. This is east, this is west. On this vacant parcel, however, in order to comply with health department purposes, we do have to merge this lot with the lot, merge these two lots together, particularly because we are proposing the apartments. That kind of brings us over the septic flow required by the health department. But the existing, we are proposing to keep the existing 4,746 square foot auto repair garage. The applicant proposes to 82 parking spaces, partly to bring the existing the existing garage into compliance with the zoning code, and partly to comply with the parking requirements of the proposed building. Because there is a residential zoning district to the north, we are proposing the required 50-foot vegetated transitional yard. We do have intent to make the entrances at the front of the property a little bit more safe. Right now, this is essentially just a continuous opening. When we had first kind of started to think about this project, I met with the planning staff, and this was kind of what they were suggesting would be to provide sidewalks, provide some additional curbing to kind of make it a little bit more organized. I understand that this will probably kind of evolve as we're going through the planning process, but this is kind of our first take at it.
Not shown on these plans or the survey that we submitted, there's actually an existing cross-access easement on the property to the west that would allow this property, these properties to access Montauk Highway through that neighboring property at 774 Montauk Highway. And I suppose that in the eventual kind of full site plan submission, we could potentially entertain having cross-access with them so that it kind of goes back and forth between them. And just to update the board, at the March 23rd work session, the planning board raised concerns that this project might constitute an expansion of a non-conforming use because we are proposing to merge the two lots, and the existing garage, repair garage, is a non-conforming use. So we met with Sean McDermott, the chief building inspector, on May 1st to discuss this question, and then we formally submitted a letter to him. We're waiting for the response on that. I believe that he is on a well-deserved vacation right now, but he has to speak with the town attorney's office, and will come back to us with a letter with his determination on that. Please note that the auto repair body shop predates the zoning code. We have a pre-existing certificate of occupancy for that, which was issued on July 17, 1978. And I welcome any board or public comment.
The gray area, what's happening in that grayish area there?
So the gray area would be, we're showing it as asphalt, and the light gray area here is gravel parking, because in the Hamlet Commercial zoning district, we're limited on the amount of impervious coverage that we can have, 60% of the lot area. So in order to provide compliance with that standard, we'd only be able to cover the property with 44,970 square feet. So that is this asphalt and the buildings. So this gravel, either here or wherever we wind up putting the gravel, would be to make sure that we comply with the not going over on the impervious coverage.
Is there a reason why you wouldn't just use impervious on the other lot as well?
Part of this area is going to be for car
Pervious, I
storage.
mean.
Oh, pervious, yes.
Right.
I understood what you.
Thank you.
No problem. Part of the purpose of this would actually be for car storage. So one of the parking requirements that you follow when you're for a parking garage, for a garage, I keep calling a repair garage, is both how many bays you have in the repair garage, but also the you need overnight storage, because sometimes the cars aren't going to be repaired in a day, so you need to be able to store them. And just so that for organization, and I guess for to just keep it clean, that was why the asphalt was on this side and not on that side. I guess kind of thinking about it out loud, having the people that work here moving these cars around, it may make sense to actually make this gravel as opposed to this, because this is patrons and customers that would just be coming in and out, and maybe they aren't going to be as careful with the parking area as the people that actually own and rent the area. But I guess we can work that through.
And you can't line gravel spaces.
That too.
So you have to figure out a way to control the spaces in the gravel area.
Right.
Curb stops.
How many parking spaces are you proposing for just the auto use there? You don't have to answer that now. I was just, because from here, it looks like a lot of parking there. I know they have cars to store. We don't want to have this situation again, but that does look like a lot of parking.
Right.
Because it's 4 per bay, so you have 4 bays. So that's 16 plus employees, plus reasonable parking for, that looks like a lot of parking there. So
I mean, all over the town where we have repair shops, we have
cars all over the place.
cars and parking problems,
Yep.
it seems. Anthony, can you zoom in?
Sure.
And it's in the Aquifer Protection Overlay
And can you
District?
Scroll and down, that way.
Is that all gonna be cleaned up?
No, it's not an aquifer.
And I also don't think, it looked like the notice.
It said Central Pine Barrens, that's not accurate either.
Yeah, I don't think, yeah.
That's the playground right next.
That's the playground,
Yeah.
yep.
It's the Parkers.
Actually, we have a two-lot over here.
This road right just past that.
Yep, that's correct.
You know, one of the things I was just offered to start thinking about, when we have these mixed-use facilities now, is making provisions for the second-floor apartments to get their electric charging, ability to charge electric vehicles. So in the time to do that, we've been talking about underground conduits when you're putting your parking together. So even if we don't establish them right away, it's easy to establish electric chases out to, for car parking. It's starting to come up now, more and more. This way we avoid the extension cords thrown across sidewalks and what have you.
So I guess we would have to identify specifically which.
You're gonna have to on the site plan anyway.
Right, which parking spaces would be used
For the apartments.
For the apartments, so that those don't get used up by
Right.
the
And
people
then
that are
make
using
provisions.
the retail use, right. And, okay, no, that's, thank you.
Can you give me some specifics of what will be in the mini market?
We're thinking.
Given the amount of parking and usage.
For lack of a better analogy, it's going to be something similar to Cinderella's. So both grocery, but also some prepared food, and which is kind of why the seats are there, so that people could maybe after going to a concert or something like that at the park, or going to the park, they could come and get a sandwich and then go and sit out or go back to the park. So it's kind of that kind of a thing.
Good. Anyone from the public wishes to be heard on the application? And Charles, is there anyone here for 656? Hello, Charles. You have anyone in the Zoom room?
No, sir.
No,
Thank you,
speakers,
Charles.
okay. Three submissions, so we're gonna go out 30 days on the comment period. Do we have a motion to close?
Motion.
Motion by Gloria,
Second.
second by George, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions? Let's close with the 30-day written comment. Thank you, Mike. Good seeing you. And finally,
I did that part,
Francis Mulvey. Do we have notice, council?
We do.
We do?
except for the
Greg,
pavilion.
are you up for the read?
Yeah,
Sure.
except for the pavilion
Okay.
side, I had it done.
Read the notice and get it rolling.
We should lose an Amy.
Let me have one.
Where are we? Is it the last one?
Well, should be
Yeah,
last.
okay. Please take notice that in accordance with local law number 417 of 2022, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on May the 11th, 2023 at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing to consider the pre-application entitled Francis E. Mulvey. The application proposes a two-lot subdivision on 1.24 acres of property situated in the R40 zoning district, New York State archaeological sensitive area located at 7 Percy Avenue in the hamlet of West Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-354-4-109.
Welcome. You cleared the road, Rob.
For the applicant, Robert Marcinsic, O'Shea Marcinsic and Brewing, 250 North Sea Road, Southampton. The subject property is located at 7 Percy Avenue in West Hampton, about 280 feet north of the intersection of Percy Avenue and Montauk Highway. It's presently comprised of 54,000 square feet and is located in R40 zoning district. It's improved with an approximate 830 square foot single-family dwelling in the northern portion of the property. And the applicant is proposing to create two lots, each of which would be comprised of 27,000 square feet, essentially cutting the property in half. Provided you with a couple of photos showing the portion of the property which is proposed to be a new building lot, which is essentially a wooded area on the property. That's Exhibit A. Exhibit B is the existing house that is on the property. We received a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals to create the proposed 2,700 square foot lots. That decision we've included as Exhibit C in the exhibit packet. Premises are generally wooded, except for the portion that's developed with the house. The entire width of the proposed lots have road frontage. Property is generally flat, so there shouldn't be any drainage concerns. The area is comprised of residentially developed parcels with a number of commercial uses along Montauk Highway. subject parcel as well as many other parcels in the area were part of an old file map, and as a result, there are many non-conforming lots located in the area, so the proposed resulting 27,000 square foot lots will be similar in size to many other residential lots in the area, and in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. We've included a copy of several combined sections of the Suffolk County tax map as Exhibit D, just to show the board the area as far as the size of the lots are concerned. You can also, I guess, look at aerial photographs. The applicant has submitted an application to the Suffolk County Water Authority, just for the board's knowledge, to extend the water main down Percy Avenue to add public water to each of the proposed lots. They will also require, as part of the Suffolk County Department of Health Services application, the proposed sanitary system will have to be upgraded on the, the existing sanitary system will have to be upgraded that services the house. And the property is also in groundwater management zone requiring a minimum of 40,000 square feet, so the applicant will no doubt, we assume, have to get either Pine Barren credits or TDRs in order to complete the subdivision process with the health department. That's basically all I got. It's pretty simple, 2-lot subdivision as far as I'm concerned.
Just kind of split it right in half, is that?
Yeah, that's it.
And is
The
the-
applicant's son lives on the property, and basically what he wants to do is create another lot for his daughter.
So the house that's there would,
Yes.
would stay? That's the plan?
Yes.
This isn't an old file map, Rob?
Yeah, this is, the lots are part of an old file map, yes.
They are, okay, but it's not in the overlay district.
No,
No.
I have an old file map.
I noticed all the crisscrosses.
Yeah, so it's in one of those special old file maps.
Yeah.
That's the terminology that's used.
Yeah,
special
no,
old
that's
file
what they're
map.
called in code.
Special old file map. So that's accurate.
So once you get a grasp of old file maps, then you can
Special ones.
forget everything you learn and learn about the special old file maps.
Any questions? Or?
Questions from the board? There's no one from the public. Charles, anyone in Zoom for Mulvey? Is there anyone on Zoom?
No, sir.
No hands, okay, very good. We'll entertain a motion. Close with a 10-day written comment period.
Motion?
Motion by Craig, second by George, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions? 6 yes. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a motion to adjourn
Hey,
by
Rob.
Gloria,
Try to be short, sweet.
I was just thinking that. I didn't say it.
second by George. Adjourned.
I didn't say anything.